Hey guys, it's Jade from Boho Bookworm. It's NaNoWriMo Day 2. I was so excited that I just couldn't sleep after 3:30 this morning, so I started writing really early, and by 10 o'clock I had already written 2,700 words. As I started NaNoWriMo a week early due to my Canadian travel plans, that means I am already on 15,000 words. I'm really happy with the way that my story is going. And one thing I forgot to show you yesterday in my last NaNoWriMo video was this book, Surviving 30 Days of Literary Madness by Caro Kincaid. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But basically it's just like a guide and a manual and a support system in a book for getting through NaNoWriMo. It's really enjoyable. I mean, it starts off with the formalities of what NaNoWriMo is, and it goes on to what you can get from this book. 2 things that you can do in October for prepping. Once a day you'll have so it says November and there's a little quote, and then once a day it'll say November 1st, and it'll just give you a little bit of motivation and inspiration. NaNoWriMo Day 2, it says, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. The quote is from Walt Disney. For most NaNoWriMoers, today we are supposed to have hit 3,333 words. Let me know how you guys are doing in the comments down below. I am so proud of myself. I'm at such an intense part of the book. The intensity is never ending really, which I guess is a good thing with a thriller. I'm still a little bit nervous that it's not scary enough though. I'm trying to mold it into a way that is scary but still really enjoyable to read and not overwhelming. As I already mentioned, I feel like this year it's a lot harder for me to reach the goal of 1,667 words per day in general, besides today where I started really freaking early. I managed to watch a couple of other NaNoWriMo videos yesterday, and some of you guys wrote someone wrote 10,000 words in one day and another person wrote 3,000. I mean, I'm already exhausted after 2,600, and that's the most I've done so far. So right now I am going on to chapter 7 of my book at 15,000 words. So the chapters are relatively short. The things that the godchild Harley is doing to creep my main character out are just getting worse and worse. They're just getting more and more creepy. And she's starting to seduce the love interest, who I named Craig. And that adds quite a strange and uncomforting element to the book, because she is only a little 13-year-old girl who's discovering her sexuality. I realised that I haven't actually read you something that I've written for a while, so I wanted to read you a couple of things. The first thing is a paragraph from chapter 3. This is a paragraph right after the murder happened. Peyton was stabbed in the stomach with a stainless steel sharpened knife 48 times. It had killed both her and her unborn child. She had bled out on the tiles of her kitchen floor. Harley had found them, the police told me. She'd knelt down and tried to stop the bleeding, although it was already too late. She had coated her hands with her mother's sticky blood until she was soaked. Forensics believed the disembowelment and severing of her fingers had happened after death. Neighbours had heard Harley's guttural cries and called the police immediately. They'd found her sitting catatonically in a pool of blood and amniotic fluid, holding her mother's lifeless body in her lap. Each of Peyton's hacked off fingers had been placed in a widespread circle to point directly at her body. I tried to imagine it, but I couldn't. It was too much for me to comprehend. So as you can tell, it's a little bit gory and gruesome. But that kind of is the only gory... That's the most gory I think the book's going to get, because it's not about blood and horror. It's a thriller novel about how creepy this godchild is and what's wrong with her. From chapter 4, I'm going to read you a paragraph that was just after my main character Reagan left the funeral. I had on a little black dress tied together at the back with a frivolous ribbon that dug into my spine as I leaned back against the bar stool. The man behind the bar had offered me a shot of tequila on the house, and I welcomed it graciously, sucking greedily onto a lemon after knocking it back. There were a couple of men glancing my way inside the pub, even with my indistinct features. My mousy brown hair was in a braid, and my grey-blue eyes were accentuated with expensive makeup. I'd put some bronzer on to mask my pale skin, and a shimmering body lotion that smelled of coconut over my bare shoulders. Any woman showing a little bit of skin in the tiny town we lived in was sure to receive attention. It wouldn't be hard to find someone to help me take the pain away, if only momentarily. I just needed to have sex. I couldn't stand the fact that the last person to be inside of me was Sean. I wanted him gone from me and from my body. From chapter 5, I'm going to read you a paragraph that happens just after Reagan finds the godchild's journal, which basically ties her to the death of her mother. "What are you doing in here?" she demanded, standing in the way of the only possible exit. My heart was beating so erratically I could feel it all the way down to my feet. My knees wobbled, and for a moment I was scared they were going to give way. "Cleaning," I stuttered, my voice hitched too high. "Get out," she said, still standing in front of the door, trapping me. I walked towards her, My breathing quivered as I stood mere centimetres from her. She took another step towards me, closing the space between us. Her nostrils flared and her dark eyes glared at me intimidatingly. I don't know how long we stood like that for, but it felt like hours of me idling in front of her, too scared to even blink. She was so close that I could have counted the constellation of freckles scattered on the bridge of her nose. She had little lines branching out from the sides of her eyes. They told stories I wish I knew. When she finally stepped aside, I'd never felt more inferior or out of control of a situation. She threw the door shut behind me, making the entire cottage rattle. I heard the key slip into the lock and turn, locking herself away from the outside world. I ventured down the echoing hallway, dumbfounded, and did exactly the same thing. In chapter 6, things get a little bit more personal because I'm writing from my experience of being cheated on, so this is a paragraph that I wrote that was actually quite hard. I wrote this one today. I had more messages from Sean on my phone when I checked it again. There was still no apology, just nonsensical rambles about his day and pictures of him out on the kayak that we used to go fishing in together. One of my girlfriends from the island had already told me that he was seeing one of the girls he cheated on me with. It hurt even more knowing that he was with one of those girls rather than someone entirely new. I felt replaced and wondered if she knew he was still trying to talk to me, whoever she was. After I'd found out about the women, I'd been so paranoid every time he was on his phone. It ate away at me like a cancer. I was so sure that he was messing around behind my back and I couldn't trust him at all. The anxiety and stress it caused me physically and emotionally destroyed me. Who I had been before completely collapsed. I couldn't help but wonder how many women he was talking to behind her back now. And I couldn't stand that I hated her more than I hated Sean, but I still felt oddly sorry for her. Blocking him had been a long time coming. It wasn't good for me to have him constantly there on my phone as a reminder anymore, but it was still one of the hardest things I had ever had to do. My finger hovered over the block button for a long moment. Thoughts of everything he had ever done to me racing through my mind. The lying, the cheating, the manipulation, the violence and the bruises hit me again so hard that I felt lightheaded. The heartbreak I'd felt the day I'd found out shocked me all over again like a lightning bolt coursing through every nerve in my body. I pressed down and breathed a sigh of relief. It was done. That chapter in my life was finally over. I wish Peyton had been there to see that I'd finally done it. I'm not going to read you some of the later stuff I've just done just before at the end of chapter 6 because it's quite graphic sex scenes, which is very fun to write actually. It actually is a really good help to get you to your word count because you can just kind of like lose yourself in the flow of it, but I think reading that aloud might be a bit strange, so I'm going to save you guys that. You can read that when the book comes out for real. Yeah, that's me, 15,000 words, chapter 7, going really well, 2,600 and something words done today already, and I'm definitely continuing to write today because it's only 11 o'clock, so I am very happy indeed with my progress. Like I said, let me know how you guys are doing in the comments down below, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye bye.